good. Here's Wade in transition.
Hey!
Gonna flush it home.
Well, for a 2021 Bowl Series here at University Stadium. Short kickoff. Fielded about the 20.
Oh,
Gonzalez got a big gap up the middle,
Big
one man
gap.
to beat. Let's see, beats Contreras.
He's got it.
Gonzalez will return it 80 yards for a touchdown. And it was just a matter of time before he found a crease.
It's a privilege, you know, it's not a right. And I think these kids have found that out.
Witness on the quarterback
He's
option.
gonna have it.
Will break it up the middle for a touchdown.
Good job.
36-yard touchdown run by Juan Fuentes. Following.
Quarterbacks, coaches, the headlines that dominate football, not just the NFL, but football as a whole. What it do, everyone? Opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, the Sports Animal. JJ Buck joined by Ned James this morning. Mike Vitale producing in the studio. AA Ron over on ProView Networks. Speaking of coaches, we're seeing an interesting trend in the collegiate ranks. You know, Deion Sanders saw him take over at Jackson State. And by the way, you pretty much see one of their games on ESPN every weekend.
Yeah.
The fall FCS season was pushed into the spring. And then former Tennessee Titans star running back Eddie George was going to be named the next head coach at Tennessee State. Interesting trend, and I think that absolutely works for those schools, more so than, say, just a big D1 program, just naming, you know, high-profile guy their head coach. But in this case, I think it's great for interest, their careers, getting in the coaching as well. And also the kind of stories that it generates for a Jackson State, now a Tennessee State moving forward.
Yeah, my phone was blowing up yesterday with this Eddie George hire at TSU. Of course, I was with Eddie at the Tennessee Titans, and I was just proud of the fact that he was able to obtain a head coaching job with zero experience in coaching. It's interesting because Jeff Fisher was hired. I guess Jeff Fisher's bringing his son in as a defensive coordinator, and so he's going to be, I guess, the consigliere of Eddie George and kind of help guide him through trying to become or be a head coach at the college level with academics and recruiting and all those things that go into it. I know, you know, it's the HBCUs, the historically black colleges and universities in the South, are really, really popular. But he's going to learn that, you know, the band is going to take precedent over his football team because most people come to those games for the bands. And with my experience being in the HBCU for 1 year, it's great. It's a lot of fun. I mean, the kids are great. You get kids from all walks of life. Eddie, it's going to be a challenge for him. It's just interesting talking to a lot of the former players. And, you know, of course, just wishing the best for Eddie and why Eddie would go to this after being, you know, a thespian. He was on Broadway, I guess, and then he's doing commercials and he's doing, you know, the ESPN and Fox stuff with the radio. And the fact that he would want to get into coaching all of a sudden after not, you know, going and coaching a high school team or trying to, you know, coach maybe, you know, some sort of small college or volunteer services as a coach, to just jump into it as a head coach will be interesting. It's going to be fascinating. You got Hall of Fame coaches now coaching in the HBCU ranks in those classics. They sell out down there in the South. They'll play you know, Tennessee State will play Jackson State in Memphis in one of the classic games that they have. And you know, there'll be 50, 60,000 people at those games. So it's really kind of a fun time listening and talking to guys who are all excited, and they're really, the guys who are from Tennessee really want to see TSU do well. And adding Eddie George to that brand is gonna bring a lot of interest to that team, and I look forward to seeing what happens.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch, seeing how these guys really resonate, recruiting ranks, and how the young players respond, because we did see a push last year going into the year for HBCU basketball teams, and you had one of the most high-profile freshmen commit to Howard University at the time, I believe. And unfortunately, he was injured and did not play. But there's a push, kind of renewed push to get some more players back to the HBCUs. And when you have a Deion Sanders, you have an Eddie George coming in, it's definitely going to make it interesting to see how they play out and who they bring in on staff. And if you're saying that, Jeff Fisher is going to be a part of it, kind of help lead the way, probably feeling pretty good if you're Eddie George about things you can start to do.
Yeah, and I think the whole city is really on fire for Eddie getting that job. I mean, it's a new athletic director, and the new athletic director wanted to take the program in a whole different direction, and decided to make this leap of faith in Eddie George. And so it's going to be an exciting time. The HBCUs, like you said, they've been getting a lot of notoriety lately. I mean, ESPN has given them a lot of love, like you said, this spring. One of the top commentators now for the HBCU, Jay Walker, I recruited him out of high school. I couldn't get anybody to take this kid. This kid played 5 years in the NFL. I was at Long Beach State. I was watching a running back, and I saw Jay Walker on a film. His team was 0-11. He was at University High School in Los Angeles, and his team was 0-11. And I was watching him play. I had to watch this running back, and I was just looking at the other side of the ball, and I saw him playing. I said, man, this kid is really good. And I got a JC coach, a friend of mine, to take him in Pasadena, and the rest is history. The guy goes and plays in the HBCU, goes to Howard, sets all these records at Howard University in Washington, D.C., and now he's the face of HBCU for ESPN. They've really gotten, watching Deion Sanders play on Saturday, it wasn't any controversy, but it might get some controversy later on. But the fact that Deion grabbed a kid, after a kid, had an unsportsmanlike penalty, it really didn't get the play that I think a lot of people would have got, with it being that visible on ESPN. But there's a lot of interest in those HBCUs now with guys like Deion and those guys trying to come back and help. And so I'm curious to see what Eddie George does. I'm sure he'll do a good job with Jeff Fisher on that staff. Jeff's going to kind of take probably the lead here, because Eddie's going to have a lot of learning to do as far as being a head coach in college football.
And speaking of head coaches, there's 3 new head coaches in the Mountain West on the men's basketball side. Of course, Richard Pitino here in New Mexico. What does the rest of the conference look like? What should we expect to see from rosters? What in the heck is the college athletic world going to do with the transfer portal this season? Name, image, and likeness, schedules. We'll talk all about it. Jeff Grammer, Albuquerque Journal, is going to join us next here on The Opening Drive. JJ Buck, Ned James, Mike Vitale, A.A. Ron, here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, The Sports Animal.
Oliveras fakes the drive inside, trying to turn it around, draws contact, puts it up, count it, and one opportunity upcoming for Oliveras.
See how they're
Back to pass, getting some pressure.
wide
Link to
open.
Great House might go 50, 45, 40, 30, one man to beats, fine, no, breaks out of that tackle, tight ropes the sideline, touchdown. Touchdown for Peyton Grayhouse.
No.
On a turnover again, Hobnet, they've got numbers. Canton. Oh, and the throwdown. Cut off. Ortiz going to take the deep 3. Ortiz nails the 3-point shot. Timeout. Volcano Vista. Cougars take a 49-47 lead. 3.3 seconds left.
Just like that. You're at the 1 yard line.
Looking over the middle. Intercepted. It's intercepted. And going down the left sideline, might take it to a house call. One man to beat, cuts it back inside at the 5. 10, one man to beat again. Cuts it back at the 5, touchdown. Interception in the return.
Who was that?
By number 8, Isaac Hinson, who's already scored an offensive touchdown.
11-4 game, 4.9 seconds to go in the first quarter. Bring up the court, Mays going inside, drawing contact, and one opportunity.
That's a great inbound play. Lovato puts it up, blocked beautifully by Heckrop. Blocked beautifully. Shot at the buzzer's up, and it's good. It's good by number 5, Devin Domino Lovato for 3. That will count.
Don't sacrifice quality of flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk up to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number 1. Cover it with green stuff, 1 scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Networks.
Are you sure we're supposed to be doing this?
Don't worry, I've watched him do it 1,000 times. Come on, what's the worst that can happen?
No! Bad dog!
Hi, welcome to Car Crafters. What happened? Don't worry, we'll make it like it never happened.
Car Crafters, it's like it never happened.
Car Crafters is a proud supporter of ProView Networks.
With 2-time New Mexico Sportscaster of the Year, Jeff Siembieda.
5 years running, I need to stay on this show, morning show. You guys are pros. I mean that. And you're up.
Well, that 2-time dude is back tomorrow. JJ Buck, Ned James, Mike Vitale with you on a Monday morning coming off a redonkulous weekend. We're talking Masters, Hideki Matsuyama. Oh, by the way, the Padres threw a no-hitter on Friday night. My adopted baseball team this year, the San Diego Padres, trying to chase down Ned James's Dodgers. Only a game back in that division because I have put the Colorado Rockies on pause for the disaster that the front office is at this moment in time. Go Ice Topes, looking forward to it.
Did you see the L.A. ring, Ned?
Oof.
Was that bling or
yes.
what?
That's
wow.
nice, yeah. Hollywood.
Of course, not enough diamonds in the LA World Series ring. So we got a ton to get to. And oh, by the way, we're talking sports, always a good time to talk Mountain West basketball. Our next guest is Jeff Grammer of the Albuquerque Journal. He joins us now on the opening drive. But actually, we don't want to talk Mountain West basketball. We just brought Jeff on to get his thoughts on who the 49ers should select with the number 3 pick. Jeff, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing all right this morning, man. That's what it's all about, actually. You know, we said we're going to talk some Mountain West basketball, but just which quarterback should San Francisco select at 3?
Man, I'll tell you what. I've never really had a time like this before where I have anxiety over their pick for the first time in a while, and I mean it's a good thing because I think they're really close to being good, and I honestly have no idea which quarterback they should take. Obviously, they're going quarterback, but I don't know which one they should go with. And I guess it's good to have some anxiety for a 49er draft pick for the first time in a while, but I have no idea who they should take.
Well, it's a weird situation to be in because they do have a playoff caliber roster. The injuries, just sucked the life out of them last year at the quarterback position, but then to be selecting at 3, usually don't see that at all. So I get your understanding there because Jim Garoppolo, Jim G, got you a Super Bowl, but is it Mac Jones? Is it Justin Fields? Who knows? That's the beauty of it. That's what we love.
I love it. I love being, having them in a position right now where they're picking a position that might not even, be starting the season anyway. I think if they draft a quarterback, which obviously they're going to do, this player is going to be the starter by the end of the season. But yeah, I mean, they're drafting a position right now that might not even be their starter to start the season in a season that they hope to get to the Super Bowl.
That is Jeff Grammer, our NFL expert, joining us here on the opening drive this morning. But in reality, we brought Jeff on, bounce around, talk a bunch of topics here with us this morning because I don't think any of us even coaches, even collegiate players at this moment in time have an idea of what next year is going to look like. So the NCAA this week is going to vote on a couple of things, especially recruiting periods, because that's been a mess over the last year and a half. Of course, COVID, you can't travel, you can't recruit at this point in time. But phone calls, text messages, etc. And then the one-time transfer rule. With players transfer by July 1st this year, they become immediately eligible. It is crazy, Jeff, but as someone who's trying to follow along with all this, where do we even stand just roster-wise right now in college athletics?
So, I mean, look, one of the big things that college athletics does, football does it every year as well, but, you know, the morning after or even in the hour after the national championship game, people start releasing the way too early top 25 picks of the following year, and all the outlets have done that again this year, and it's a good conversation starter for moving forward towards the next season and all that. But this year, all these outlets are putting out these top 25s for next year, and even at the very top, even the final four teams this year and all that kind of stuff. While you know they're probably going to be pretty good again next year, there is absolutely zero reason for those top 25 lists to come out right now and put a whole lot of weight into them, because even the best teams have some of their best players going into the transfer portal because of the flexibility that there is right now. This isn't a sign of a bad team. It's not a sign of a team in transition even. It's just a sign of the times that everybody has the opportunity to explore their options right now. So, look, the rosters, trying to figure out what the rosters look like in April right now for next year, this season of all seasons is absolutely, you know, there's no reason for it. I do think that a lot of schools are starting to pick up some transfers, and that's why, you know, we'll get to the more specific to the Lobos here in a little bit. I'm a little confused why they haven't signed anybody yet. I'm hoping to figure out exactly where they're headed on some of these recruiting, on some of their recruiting tactics and strategies right now. But there's going to be transfers out and in of every program all the way up until next August, probably. Now, they do have probably, we're expecting anyway, the NCAA to say that they have to decide by July if they want to be immediately eligible. But even that, like, you know, anything can change because the NCAA is still going to go vote on stuff. So, but nobody knows. The Mountain West doesn't know. If you looked at the top teams in the Mountain West this year and expected the ones that had sophomores on their roster or juniors on their roster to be really good next year, well, guess what? Some of those teams have coaches that left, players that left. We don't know what teams are bringing in 3 or 4 really good players, so it's hard to know right now in April. Obviously, the season doesn't start till November, so I guess that's okay. But right now, there's just no way to really have a good grasp of what the Mountain West or anyone in college basketball is going to be looking like next year.
Jeff, just a real quick question. Is it always this much turnover, not so much with the kids, but with staffs in the off season in college basketball? So you made the kind of you said that these teams are not going to be the same in a sense because of all that turnover. Is this abnormal or is this normal for coaching staffs to turn over this much in the off season in college basketball?
I think it's been heading this way for a little while too. That it's been on an uptick as well. I know there's certainly a lot of, you know, conversation and dialogue and maybe narrative about how the kids these days are kind of changing the game and all their transferring. But look, make no mistake that the college coaching staffs have been on a higher percentage if you count a head coach and 3 assistant coaches. So if you count 4 per team out of the 357 Division I men's basketball programs, there's been higher turnover every year. There's higher turnover on coaching staffs than there are on player rosters, but we always talk about how the players are the problem. The coaching staff turnover has been high for a while, but this year I think a lot of people thought it would die down a little bit because with the pandemic, nobody really thought a lot of schools were going to invest the money into hiring a new coach and firing an old coach or doing the transition. But man, that's out the window. It's happening as much as ever. I think there's 55 Division I coaching changes going on. Not all fires. I mean, some are retirements. Obviously, when there is one firing and they hire another coach that was a head coach somewhere else, that wasn't a firing, but just a coach leaving. But yeah, I think there's 55 openings right now. this is a regular transitional kind of year, even with the pandemic and the financial situation facing a lot of programs. There's a lot of movement going on right now, and it is part of the game just as much as the players transferring nowadays.
Jeff Grammer, Albuquerque Journal, joining us here on the opening drive. And Jeff, you look at the Mountain West Conference, and 4 of the coaches turned over, and it was, some of course moving on, others firing. In Utah State's case, Craig Smith takes the Utah job, which I thought was actually a no-brainer from the beginning there. But that's also 6 coaches over the last 2 years in the Mountain West that we've seen hired. When you look at Ryan Odom, Kevin Kruger, Tim Miles finally getting back in the game at San Jose State, and of course Richard Pitino at UNM, what do you think of the new additions to the league?
I think it's clear if you actually just look at the starting points of these 4 guys, and any time in the first of all, 4 is the most the Mountain West has ever had in an offseason. They've had a few 3 coaching change off seasons in the past several years, but if you look at all 4 of the programs that have new coaches right now, the starting point, the hiring point of these coaches compared to their predecessors in terms of just name recognition and maybe a brand that's already established, all 4 of them are more well established, you could argue, than their predecessors. We'll start with San Jose State. Gene Prelow was, an assistant at Colorado. He is now he's the guy that they just fired. Obviously very well respected, very nice guy. I liked covering his San Jose State teams, but they had so much trouble with high turnover. Their leading scorer, I think, has transferred out of their program with eligibility remaining, has transferred out of their program every year for the past 5 years now, I think. So obviously there's some issues going on there, but when he was hired, nobody knew him. He was an assistant coach from Colorado that very few people knew. Now they replaced him with Tim Miles. From a starting point, Tim Miles is obviously a far more well-established name and coach. You kind of have an idea of what you're getting with him. I think at UNLV, while he's a first-time head coach, Kevin Kruger carries the Kruger name, and at UNLV, that's a potential Hall of Fame coach. I think Lon Kruger will eventually be in the Hall of Fame. The son of a head coach like that, you have instant name recognition, whereas TJ Otzelberger probably wasn't the same kind of brand name in UNLV. Now he had been a head coach, and he was considered a very highly respected assistant coach at Iowa State prior to that. But from a starting point, Kevin Kruger comes with some name recognition, and he's already signed 4 Big 12 conference transfers that obviously know the Kruger name. Now, none of these guys were stars in the Big 12, but he has 2 players from Texas already signed at UNLV, 1 player from West Virginia, and 1 from Oklahoma. So he's obviously, with his name recognition, bringing some players into UNLV that know the Kruger name and want to play there and turn things around. At Utah State, look, Craig Smith for 3 years was as good, you could argue, as what Eric Musselman was at Nevada. Now, Nevada had they got up higher in the national rankings at one point. When they came to the pit, they were ranked 6th, and they lost to the Lobos, and then they made a Sweet 16 run. But overall, you could argue what Craig Smith did at Utah State in terms of name recognition and just success on the court was about as good as what Musselman did in that very short window in Nevada. And all that said, he probably wasn't as high a name recognition kind of guy as what they have now in Odom, because Odom had the huge upset, the 16 seed beating the 1 seed at Virginia a few years back. So all 3 of those hires, you bring in a coach in who from a starting point is probably with far more name recognition and just kind of notoriety around college basketball than their predecessors. And of course at New Mexico, Richard Pitino, the name, and 8 years in the Big Ten, as well as a 9th year of head coaching experience compared to what Paul Weir was, which was 1 year coaching in the WAC at New Mexico State. The name recognition and the starting point of these 4 coaches is far better than their predecessors. I think it's a good move overall for the Mountain West, which had a really good year. So, look, I'm not always blowing sunshine on the Mountain West, but I think from a starting point this offseason, the league is in a much better position right now from a coaching perspective than it was a year ago or when all these coaching turnover schools had their most recent changes 3-4 years ago at most places.
He's Jeff Grammer of the Albuquerque Journal. He's going to stick around and join us on the other side. We're going to get into how it's gone for Richard Pitino in his first few weeks as head coach. Take a peek down south. Chris Jans, always interesting in the offseason with the moves and when his name comes up. But the future of not just New Mexico State, but the Western Athletic Conference with the additions and some other business stuff to attend to. JJ Buck, Ned James, got Ron on the ProView side. It's the opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, the Sports Animal.
Right now.
For your surprisingly great rates, contact your local State Farm agent today.
If you want the real deal, call State Farm agent Marty Size in Albuquerque today.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Rudy's is a proud supporter of ProView Networks.
A rogue virus, no jobs, sky-high tuition debt. Life is trying to put our generation on the sidelines. But we refuse to just sit back and watch it pass us by. Instead, watch us fly ahead. Watch us overcome anything. Watch us rise. Watch us change our world. Watch us become the next greatest generation.
Calling all football players, are you looking to develop your skills this season? It's never too late or too early to put in the work. Coach Carl Barrere and the Air Barrere program at 8 Grady's Performance Center provide comprehensive position training for aspiring football players at all levels. Whether you're looking to increase your speed, gain strength, or hone your skill, we train all positions with a team of experienced coaches who know what it takes to succeed at all levels from Yaffle to college. Check us out at 8gradys.com to learn more and sign up for training today.
Jackson Compaction wants to help you keep your green and keep the community green as well. Jackson Compaction has worked hard to maintain the same prices since day one. Always easy and painless trash removal with professional crews and quality service. If it's non-hazardous waste, debris, or trash on your land, leave it to us. At Jackson Compaction, we're dedicated to ensuring the conservation of our environment. You trash it, we smash it. Jackson Compaction, we've earned a reputation for great results.
Hi, I'm Staff Sergeant Hayes. I'm with the New Mexico Army National Guard, and I'm from Tucson, Arizona.
Hi, I'm Staff Sergeant Greg Martinez. I'm with the New Mexico Army National Guard, and I'm from Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Hi, I'm Marilena Fernandez. I'm with the New Mexico Army National Guard, and I'm from Santa Fe, New Mexico.
The New Mexico Army National Guard is a proud supporter of New Mexico high school athletics.
Your surprisingly great rates? Contact your local State Farm agent today.
If you want the real deal, call State Farm agent Art Sandoval in Albuquerque today.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Next in line.
Rudy's is a proud supporter of ProView Networks.
Sadie's is a proud supporter of New Mexico high school sports and athletics, and we here at ProView Networks would like to thank Sadie's for their continued support in helping us bring you all of your New Mexico high school sports coverage.
Meet Greg Shamus. He's a State Farm agent, which means he's here to help with all this. But it's easier to just remember he's here to help life go right. Call State Farm agent Greg Shamus at 505-898-3648 today.
Oh, what a Monday indeed. We're talking no-hitters, we're talking Masters, we're talking Mountain West basketball, quarterbacks, you name it, we got you covered. What it do? It's opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, The Sports Animal. JJ Buck, joined by our quarterback, Ned James, this morning. Mike Vattel producing radio side. Got A.A. Ron on the ProView side. And joined once again by Jeff Grammer, Albuquerque Journal, spending some time with us this morning. Always appreciated. Just kind of going over some of the turnover in the Mountain West Conference. And it's rare when you don't win and fans are excited. But that's what happens when you hire a new coach. There's the hope for the future. There's the honeymoon period. Jeff, I'm interested to get your thoughts on kind of how UNM has been handling this with what we've seen. They've done a renewed push, trying to get all the athletics on the same page. I thought what they did on Thursday, that Lobo talk with Danny Gonzalez, Mike Bradbury, and Richard Pitino, was actually 2 thumbs up, just showing what the future is going to look like. How do you think Pitino has handled everything since he's taken over?
Look, I think, first of all, I think he's done fine. I mean, he's done what a new coach should do, come in, hype up the fans about, their most cherished roster spot, and that's the position of the pit and what it plays in this program, which is, look, we all know by now, no Sweet 16. This program's about the fans and about that building, and he knows that. Somebody got in his ear right away and told him that, and he's been playing up the pit. They haven't signed a recruit yet, so obviously the excitement that there is, while dwindling a little bit, and I can tell you I get emails regularly like, why no more Lobo basketball stories? And I'm like, look, I've written about a coach for well over a month now, even before he was hired. It's been all coach talk. I want to talk about some players, and hopefully that comes soon. I think he's done, for the most part, done fine. He's been saying all the right things. He has been telling everybody he's going to be patient with this. And so I think he's done good. I think what UNM overall has done, though, it is good. I mean, look, high marks from me for getting all the coaches on the same page. And when you think about, this isn't meant as a backhanded compliment, but, I am who I am, so I'm going to say it this way. If you think about what's going on at UNM Athletics right now, for them to have so much excitement and so many, all the coaches on the same page and fans genuinely wanting to buy early, wanting to buy season tickets again, I don't know if the numbers are through the roof or anything, but I think there's a good steady, for April, there's a good steady amount of people trying to buy their season tickets now for men's hoops and for football. It's pretty remarkable because you're coming off the worst in 60 years men's basketball season. You're coming off a 2-5 football season, and yet people are talking about Lobo football like it's arrived, like it's here, and that's good. These are all good things. You are talking about a program that it hasn't gone away. The pandemic debt that they're facing is north of $10 million that they're about to have to post in July, and yet there's so much excitement around this program. You can't help but pat them on the back for what they've been able to do in generating excitement at a program that's kind of had a bit of a black cloud over it for several years. And if you just look on paper, if you kind of took a macro look at this, you would think that there would be a black cloud over the program right now, and there's not. They found a way to have the sunshine break through, and the fan base is excited. People are genuinely optimistic about what's to come at a time when right now it's all about hopes and about what's going to happen, because what's happened so far hasn't really proven anything.
Yeah, Jeff, when we look at last year, it was obviously just ridiculously difficult for all the programs involved. Lobo men not playing a home game, the women getting 2 at the very end, football being on the road. But down south, New Mexico State, it was the same thing. They didn't even play a football season as an independent. Chris Jans and New Mexico State, now they went on that run in the WAC tournament, but not the same team. Now, you wonder the pause they had, it was one point in time over a month where they didn't play a game. Chris Jans is obviously still a good coach. His name probably wasn't as hot in the coaching searches this year as you might expect it to be normally, so Aggie fans might be like, thank you, Chris, for staying here. What do you make of just kind of New Mexico State, where they're at and where they're heading right now?
No, I think you summed it up right. Look, they had the same struggles that the New Mexico Lobos had in all their programs, in basketball specifically, with trying to have to relocate for much of the season. While they were a bus ride and the car ride away from where they ended up being able to play their, air quote, home games here in El Paso, they were still relocating even their home games out of state there at the end, even if it was just a drive away. So they went through a lot. They didn't have a good season. I don't think they were going to have that great of a season this past year anyway under normal circumstances. I didn't care for the roster makeup quite as much as others did, and yet Chris, still had them in the WAC tournament title game despite everything they went through. His name coming up for jobs is just going to be the norm, and as long as he's at New Mexico State, his name will come up for some jobs afterwards. Now, there are some people wondering what that means. When a New Mexico State head coach with a lack of any history, that a coach there has gone on to do better things elsewhere, what is that since Lou Henson anyway? Since Lou Henson's first departure after the Final Four back in the early 70s, there hasn't been a history of an Aggie coach going on and having success elsewhere. So some people wonder, is it just because they're the big fish in a little whack pond, or not? And I think that's at this point, Chris Jans has on paper has the game film. The film is out. You know that their teams haven't just been doing good in the WAC. They've been taking Kansas to the wire. They beat Miami in the tournament. They have Power 5 wins. They're dominating, frankly, on paper. They're dominating their rivals. They were 4-2 against the Lobos and 5-1 against UTEP. That's stuff New Mexico State hasn't done in a while. So he's doing a little better than Marvin and Paul both were doing. He's a good coach. He has the history that he has, where he got fired at his previous stop, and other than that, you can't really question whether or not he's a good coach, which is why his name keeps coming up. I'm surprised if you look at UTEP bringing his name up and actually interviewing him. I'm surprised they went that route. If you look at when Paul Weir was hired at UNM, one thing Paul Krebs and Paul Weir did, and depending on who you believe on how the process worked and how they got to Paul Weir, you can't deny this. They kept it quiet until the deal was done, because if it got out that Paul Weir was interviewing with the rival, or that the rival was interviewing their rival coach, and then you didn't go that route, everybody would know that, and the fans of both fan bases would know that and hold it against either the coach or the administration forever. Well, UTEP and Chris Jans are going down that road right now, and while a lot of people say they can't really blame Chris Jans for at least exploring other options, the reality is your head coach is interviewing with the rival, and your rival school and their fan base have to realize we're interviewing the rival's coach. So those are some PR issues ahead that whether or not he takes the job, people are going to remember for a long time.
Jeff, just back on Patino a little bit and the recruits.
Yeah.
I know he's kept a couple of the kids that we have here already, and I'm hearing that he's bringing some kids in here, next couple of weeks. But as far as the social justice issues that have arisen, and the fact that we've started to empower some of our student athletes with being able to have a voice with the Black Lives Matter movement and some of the social justice stuff, and the fact that Patino came from ground zero of the George Floyd incident, which is right down the road there from the University of Minnesota. Have you guys spoken to him, or has he made any statements pertaining to that, and how he will come into this community and affect this community in regards to some of these social justice issues?
Man, that's a really good question. I'll say this. I haven't talked to him about it. He hasn't talked to the media publicly, and players haven't been available once since he's been hired. And he hasn't talked to the media since April 2nd, I believe, previous Thursday. But that's a fantastic question. He was, as you pointed out, right in the middle of not just this whole country was obviously in the middle of the social justice change at the athletics level and college athletics, but he was right there in Minnesota. So that would be a fascinating thing to pick his brain about. I haven't done so, but I'm certainly going to steal your idea and do it.
Yeah, I was kind of curious as to why that didn't come up with him, meaning in his initial press conference from many of the media outlets. But I do hear that there are some recruits coming in, and I hear that there's a couple kids that he wants to keep around. It'll be interesting to see who he keeps and who he doesn't really want to keep. I mean, because I'm sure they're practicing and he's working them out and checking them out. But it'll be interesting to hear his take on all of that, because I mean, their students were right there on campus, and a lot of the stuff that happened in Minneapolis. I know that area pretty well. I coached in Minnesota, so I'm pretty familiar with where that incident happened and how it's located at that university. And coming from a university of that size and magnitude, I think Minnesota has the largest student campus population in the United States, if I'm correct, with like over 60-something thousand students. And so it'll be interesting to hear his take on all that, and I'm anxious to hear how he handles that in this community moving forward. So make sure you do ask him.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll add this to that too. He, look, by all accounts, and this is unsolicited stuff that I've been kind of offered up from friends of mine in just college journalism, college sports athletics journalism, basketball guys that worked at the Big Ten or some national writers. I've been told by, I'd say, 6 or 7 people, several of them unsolicited, and me not seeking them and asking them, that Richard's a guy who is as self-deprecating and open and honest about his faults as anybody they dealt with. Now, they were dealing with the Big Ten, which is a little bit different level than the Mountain West, right. And maybe they're comparing him on a scale of coaches who are, maybe a little bit different breed and maybe a little more private and controlling in general. But the reality is, I've been told by multiple national writers, and nobody's told me the opposite yet, that Richard's going to be very open, very honest about even the warts in the program and the flaws and the things that are going wrong. That he'll be pretty honest and open about it. I haven't really seen a whole lot of that just yet, just because it's so early in his tenure and he hasn't been hired as staff yet. So I'm still benefit of the doubt there. But everything I've been told is this is going to be a good open relationship in terms of transparency with the program.
Well, Jeff, as always, man, appreciate the time. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Stay safe, you and your family, and we'll talk soon.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Good seeing you, Jeff.
Jeff Grammer, Albuquerque Journal, joining us here. Opening Drive, 95.9 FM, AM 610, the Sports Animal.
At New Mexico Highlands University, you're more than a student, you're family. Whether you're taking courses in Las Vegas, Santa Fe, Rio Rancho, Albuquerque, or Farmington, you'll get that one-on-one attention to inspire you to reach your goals. Let New Mexico Highlands help take your passion and accelerate it into a career and fulfilling life path. Find out why New Mexico Highlands is the right choice for you. Log on to NewMexicoHighlands.com today.
TurboThreads is a proud sponsor of ProView Networks.
Almost 30 years of experience means fast service, great prices, and a wide selection of apparel from t-shirts to performance sports shirts, even jackets and hats. They feature low minimums and no setup charges on most orders. TurboThreads is located at 1503 Golf Course Road in Rio Rancho, or find them on Facebook, online at turbothreads.com, or call 999-1234 for TurboThreads.
Plan your adventure at WNMU.edu.
Extreme Clean is a proud sponsor and supporter of ProView Networks and all high school sports athletics. Owner Mike McLean and Extreme Clean specialize in carpet cleaning for apartment, realty, business, and residential clients. With over 20 years experience, attention to detail and quality customer service matters. For more information, give them a call, 505-221-6440, Extreme Clean.
For your surprisingly great rates, contact your local State Farm agent today.
If you want the real deal, call State Farm agent Ashley Duran in Albuquerque today.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Here at Legacy, we are here to disciple people by helping them connect with God, grow in relationships, and live generously.
crisp and they look good. Here's Wade in transition.
Hey!
Gonna flush it home.
Well, for a 2021 Bowl Series here at University Stadium. Short kickoff. Fielded about the 20.
Oh,
Gonzalez got
a
big gap up the middle,
Big
one man
gap.
to beat. Let's see, beats Contreras.
He's got it.
Gonzalez will return it 80 yards for a touchdown. And it was just a matter of time before he found a crease.
It's a privilege, you know, it's not a right. And I think these kids have found that out.
Witness on the quarterback
He's
option.
gonna have it
Will break it up the
touchdown.
middle for a touchdown.
Good job.
36-yard touchdown run by Juan Fuentes following.
Oliveras to make the drive inside, trying to turn it around, draws contact, puts it up, count it, and one opportunity upcoming for Oliveras.
And you're up.
Well, you know, New Mexico State fans are like, really? Again, this time it's UTEP that's interviewing our head basketball coach? Come on now, what is going on? That would just be even worse to take than Paul Ware taking the New Mexico jobs. And Chris Jan's definitely done a little bit more. Of course, it was Paul Ware just 1 year at New Mexico State, but the prevailing sense is that Chris Jans is a better basketball coach at this point in time. But that's what happens, man. If you got a good coach, even your rival might come sniffing in there, checking it out, and then for it to happen twice, oof, that would be rough. But we shall see what happens. JJ Buck and Ned James, got Mike Vitale in studio. Taking your calls, Quan's Auto Care hotline is 246-0610. You can send an email, jj@sportsanimалabq.com. Because if you're sending them to Jeff, he's not going to read them until tomorrow. Because I know a lot of you locked in on Jeff's email, but just be ready. He's not going to read them today. He's not here, but he's back with us tomorrow. And, of course, Ron on the ProView side. You can watch the show on ProView Networks, various social media sites, Twitter, YouTube, and, of course, Facebook.com/TheODInTheAM, our Facebook page. Videos posted there every morning for you. So appreciate Jeff Grammer hanging out with us. Always like bouncing back and forth, getting his insight. And when you look at things overall, I do think the Mountain West, at least basketball-wise, is a very intriguing spot. Coaches moving forward. You know, there's 6 coaches that have been hired within the last 2 years. Some of that due to performance, whether it's Utah State hiring a new coach, as Craig Smith took the Utah job because of how good that he did, or not living up to standards with what we've seen in some places. But I think it's going to be interesting to watch, and definitely the roster is the next big thing. And you brought it up, Ned. The student athletes. We're in a business. College athletics is a business, and we're talking about coaches. We're talking about records. We're talking about talented players. But yet we're still dealing with young men and women that are learning. And you know this firsthand. You work with a lot of student athletes at the University of New Mexico, and I thought what you brought up is intriguing because there's so much stuff going on. They are still student athletes, despite what we're seeing. A lot of things go on with the transfer portal right now, trying to figure it all out. But there's still young men and women growing up, and there's a lot of good ones at the University of New Mexico right now. But just everything that goes into being a coach, how has that even changed from your experiences to what you are seeing now in collegiate athletics?
Well, it seems like just from listening to Jeff and just hearing from other coaches around the transfer portal, which has always been kind of, I don't know, maybe it's changed because they get to automatically play, and so the coaches can't hold that over their heads anymore, that you're going to have to sit out a year if you do leave, and some of those kind of things. And your scholarship, you're not going to be able to pay for yourself. You're going to have to work and live somewhere else before they put you on, that kind of stuff. That doesn't happen anymore. It's free agency. And how long this lasts, how long they're going to allow student athletes, because of the courts, the way the courts are seeming to align with the student athletes now, and the pay for play. You could call it what you want, but it's going to be a pay for play. It'll all work itself out. I mean, these universities, and I go back to an economics review that I saw on the value of a scholarship football player and the value of a scholarship basketball player. I heard when you guys talked about the Wilson, what's the new kid that's coming in from Kentucky?
Terry Wilson.
Terry Wilson. And a caller called in and really went into detail on what Terry Wilson was getting from the University of New Mexico. He talked about his room and board. He talked about fees, books, tuition, and he was essentially saying, we're essentially paying for this guy, and if he gets hurt, we've paid for all his academic stuff, and is it worth it? Well, the average scholarship player for this person who called in, who doesn't really, he didn't give the economics. He gave kind of a, I don't know. It seemed like he was a little jealous of how much the kids are getting for being on scholarship. But the average Division I scholarship football player is worth $360,000. The average basketball player is worth a little bit more, like $385,000. The individual player that is on scholarship, that is what their worth is. Now, the fact that the monies that they generate go to other sports and the other salaries, particularly coaches, administrators, all the other sports, minor sports, that doesn't neglect the fact that what their worth is as an individual scholarship athlete. And so I think that has a lot to do with what people are thinking of as the transfer portal and kids being able to transfer and what their worth is and how it's not fair. Well, it is fair because these kids are getting benefits from transferring. A kid is actually saying, "Hey, I'm on the open market. What can you provide for me in addition to what I've been getting from the place that I'm leaving?" Whether it's I don't like the atmosphere here. The coach I don't like. I don't like the major that I have here. It's all about what monetary value that's important to that individual person that everybody has a right to. Everybody expects their rights not to be violated when it comes to that, being able to take care of yourself in that manner. But for some reason, when it's a young person doing it, they seem to be up in arms about it, even though they know the value is way more than is not as much as what the student athlete is getting. The student athlete's value is worth way more than what they're actually getting from the university.
I believe that this will settle down. Now, college basketball is always going to have a ridiculously high rate of transfers. That's where we're seeing. But this year into next year, just due to the free year, the one-time transfer, it is going to be a little bit crazy. It's going to be overwhelming for some fans. But college athletics does still have some work to do to solidify their stance overall. But we'll talk more about the student athlete, the impact players, the give and take of it all, and what it means for next season for a lot of the teams that we will be watching. JJ Buck, Ned James, A.A. Ron, Mike Vitale producing back at the studio. It's opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, the Sports Animal.
Hey, yeah, there.
Back to pass, getting some pressure.
Oh, wide
Link
open.
to Great House might go 50, 45, 40, 30. One man to beats, fine, no. Breaks out of that tackle. Tight ropes the sideline. Touchdown. Touchdown for Peyton Grayhouse.
No. On a turnover again, Hobnet, they've got numbers. Canton. Oh, and the throwdown.
Cut off. Ortiz going to take the deep three. Ortiz nails the three-point shot. Time out. Volcano Vista Cougars take a 49-47 lead. 3.3 seconds left.
Just like that. You're at the 1 yard line.
Looking over the middle. Intercepted. It's intercepted. And going down the left sideline, might take it to a house call. One man to beat, cuts it back inside at the 5. 10, one man to beat again. Cuts it back at the 5, touchdown. Interception in the return.
Who was that?
By number 8, Isaac Kinsey, who's already scored an offensive touchdown.
11-4 game, 4.9 seconds to go in the first quarter. Bring up the court, Mays going inside, drawing contact, and one opportunity.
An attack. Oh, that's a great inbound play. Mata puts it up, blocked beautifully by Heckrop. Blocked beautifully. Shot at the buzzer's up, and it's good. It's good by number 5, Devin Lovato for 3. That will count.
Don't sacrifice quality of flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk up to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number 1. Cover it with green stuff, 1 scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Networks.
Are you sure we're supposed to be doing this?
Don't worry, I've watched him do it 1,000 times. Come on, what's the worst that can happen?
No! Bad dog!
Hi, welcome to Car Crafters. What happened? Don't worry, we'll make it like it never happened.
Car Crafters, it's like it never happened.
Car Crafters is a proud supporter of ProView Networks.
For your surprisingly great rates, contact your local State Farm agent today.
If you want the real deal, call State Farm agent Marty Size in Albuquerque today.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Rudy's is a proud supporter of ProView Networks.
A rogue virus, no jobs, sky-high tuition debt. Life is trying to put our generation on the sidelines. But we refuse to just sit back and watch it pass us by. Instead, watch us fly ahead. Watch us overcome anything. Watch us rise. Watch us change our world. Watch us become the next greatest generation.
Calling all football players, are you looking to develop your skills this season? It's never too late or too early to put in the work. Coach Carl Barrere and the Air Barrere program at 8 Grady's Performance Center provide comprehensive position training for aspiring football players at all levels. Whether you're looking to increase your speed, gain strength, or hone your skill, we train all positions with a team of experienced coaches who know what it takes to succeed at all levels from Yaffle to college. Check us out at 8gradys.com to learn more and sign up for training today.
Jackson Compaction wants to help you keep your green and keep the community green as well. Jackson Compaction has worked hard to maintain the same prices since day one. Always easy and painless trash removal with professional crews and quality service. If it's non-hazardous waste, debris, or trash on your...
The transfer portal I can't even speak now. The transfer portal giveth and it taketh away. It's the yin and yang, the pros and cons of it all. But what the portal has done is given Lobo football a very interesting quarterback coming into this season. One Terry Wilson, a transfer from the University of Kentucky. And by the way, if you look at his career, as we have discussed, he did some pretty good things for Kentucky football team over the last few years that did get better, make a little push. We're not talking championship level, but competitive in the SEC. It's opening drive. J.J. Buck, Ned James, Mike Vitale on the radio side, A.A. Ron on the ProView side. And Ned, we have watched so many different quarterbacks over the last few years in this Lobo football program. Unfortunately, some due to injury. So we haven't necessarily been able to see a guy develop. Tabaka Tuioti, the concussion last year, still wasn't cleared for spring ball this year. What is Trey Hall going to be? Isaiah Chavez injured his elbows. We kind of lost some of his spring. But now here we are with a legit developed veteran quarterback, Terry Wilson, coming in. What are your thoughts on the new quarterback at New Mexico?
I think it's great. I think it's exciting. I'm a little disheartened by the fact that Isaiah Chavez, who's my new superhero quarterback for the Lobos, is down and injured. Just tell you a quick story. I got a really good friend who's this guy was the leading. Well, he said he had a record at Fresno State. These guys I used to practice with when I was in junior college. We several guys, a mutual friend. We go over to USC. Guys from Washington, Oregon, Arizona State, SC. We'd all practice over at USC. In the summers, we do our 7-on-7s, and one guy in particular I became good friends with, Ronald Jenkins. He's a receiver. Until a couple years ago, I think Devontae Adams broke his record for single game catch record of over 20 catches in a game. Ron Jenkins had the record. But anyway, Fresno State. I used to make fun of Fresno State, and he would tell me how great it was, and of course, what Derek Carr did to us, and one year I think they had 90-something, 100 points or something against the Lobos or whatever it was. But the fact that Isaiah Chavez beat Fresno State, and he was a walk-on quarterback from the state of New Mexico. These LA guys, we think we invented sports, so we think we're great at everything. So I was able to Ron does a great job with mentoring. I've talked to him a little bit about mentoring programs he does in Long Beach. But he is just beside himself that Isaiah Chavez was able to beat his Fresno State Bulldogs, and he was a walk-on freshman quarterback. So I have kudos over him for the foreseeable future because of the fact that Isaiah Chavez was able to beat up on the Bulldogs in that frame. But with the Terry Wilson situation, I have a different take on it. I know he comes in with a lot of accolades as an SEC player, and obviously everyone wants to see him at quarterback. He's a tremendous athlete. But we have Trey Hall here. We have Tabaka and Brad Hughes. I don't know if they'll ever get back on the field or injured. And he's coming in. He's going to learn this system. He's a one-year guy. You want to put your best athletes on the field at the same time. I know you like Trey Hall's athleticism. I know he hasn't won games. I know Danny's talking about, hey, we want guys with skins on the wall. We want guys who've had wins. We want guys who are winners. Just like Isaiah Chavez was, he's a winner. Trey hasn't won games. But as an athletic quarterback, and the fact that all our quarterbacks keep getting hurt, it can't always be just the quarterback's fault that they're getting hurt. It could be some other intangibles, maybe offensive line play. I don't know. It could be a lot of different things why they get hurt. Why not use Terry Wilson as a receiver? Why not put him, Emmanuel Logan Green, put your best athletes on the field, put Trey Hall back there, maybe move Terry in at receiver, because he's going to have to learn how to play this. He's going to have to learn the playbook at quarterback. He's going to have to learn how they go about running their offense from the quarterback position, which is a little tougher to do than it is at quarterback than it is at wide receiver maybe. So maybe let him play a little receiver, maybe get him out there, get him in space so he can, make some plays. And people thinking, well, Dad, he's an SEC guy. He's got all these. Well, I'll let you know that I was a pretty good quarterback coming out of junior college, and I thought I was going to come in here and light it up at quarterback. But lo and behold, we had a guy, Billy Rucker, who was playing well. I didn't know the veer option, didn't run option very much, and he was pretty much did a better job than I did, and I was relegated to be his backup for a while. Well, I was about ready to leave school. I was ready to go into the old transfer portal, which is just pack your bags and leave. And they said, well, hey, Ned's a good enough athlete. Why don't we put him at receiver? So I was able to play receiver. Now, guys were making fun of me, and Anthony Miller, I remember, and we played down in Tennessee. He goes, you don't even look right playing receiver, Ned, because I had never played receiver before. But I was able to get out there and as an athlete, just go out and make a couple catches and do some things out in space. So there may be a case for putting him at a different position. I know people don't want to hear that. They think he's
no one wants to hear that, Ned. I don't even want to hear that. I see what you're saying, but there's not enough in the tank. There's not a dude that's solidified at the quarterback position, and I think that's the difference. He's still got to earn it, but I think he's the leader in the clubhouse to come in and be the starting quarterback for this team.
You want to wait and see if he gets hurt first. So if he gets hurt at quarterback, then we're back to square one. Like, well, okay, we got to go through all these
Whether he
quarterbacks
gets
again.
hurt at quarterback or playing wide receiver, I think coming in, there's not an established option at the position right now.
Yeah, he's less likely to get hurt at wide receiver, but he's at a place where he could probably make some more plays. Now, I mean, we're watching out there and we're saying that, hey, do the quarterbacks have anyone prominent to throw to? Is there someone out there athletically that gives us a chance at the wideout
I think that's
position?
the biggest question mark right now, honestly.
Does he?
I didn't
would
think
he
we'd
give
be
us
here right now.
Would he give us an advantage athletically out there? Maybe he's a Terrell Pryor. You know, Terrell Pryor was a quarterback at Ohio State. Then he went to NFL, lit it up at receiver because he's an athlete. So it's that kind of thing. You have to, like I said before, the athlete is the quarterback position is the most overrated position. You've got the worst athlete on the field making the most money in the NFL at quarterback, and Tom Brady, Phillip Rivers, all these guys who can't walk and chew gum at the same time.
But look at their impact on the offenses as opposed to just a wide receiver.
Because they have players
without a quarterback.
But they have players at other positions that help them tremendously that are athletes. That's all I'm saying. Just take a look at it.
I hear what you're saying. Terry Wilson better be taking snaps from the center running set offense. If he has to throw it to himself, we'll throw it to himself.
Keep an open mind.
But I think
keep an open mind.
I'll keep an open mind. But I think we're going to see him at quarterback. Coming up next, we're going to talk with the head coach of the UNM women's soccer team, Heather Dyke, who, by the way, they're playing for a championship. I don't care what the Mountain West says. It's a championship game Saturday night against San Diego State. How did they do it? How did they get here? We'll talk about that next. The opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, the Sports Animal.
Jackson Compaction wants to help you keep your green and keep the community green as well. Jackson Compaction has worked hard to maintain the same prices since day one. Always easy and painless trash removal with professional crews and quality service. If it's non-hazardous waste, debris, or trash on your land, leave it to us. At Jackson Compaction, we're dedicated to ensuring the conservation of our environment. You trash it, we smash it. Jackson Compaction, we've earned a reputation for great results.
Hi, I'm Staff Sergeant Hayes. I'm with the New Mexico Army National Guard, and I'm from Tucson, Arizona.
Hi, I'm Staff Sergeant Greg Martinez. I'm with the New Mexico Army National Guard, and I'm from Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Hi, I'm Marilena Fernandez. I'm with the New Mexico Army National Guard, and I'm from Santa Fe, New Mexico.
The New Mexico Army National Guard is a proud supporter of New Mexico high school athletics.
For your surprisingly great rates, contact your local State Farm agent today.
If you want the real deal, call State Farm agent Art Sandoval in Albuquerque today.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Next in line.
Rudy's is a proud supporter of ProView Networks.
Sadie's is a proud supporter of New Mexico high school sports and athletics, and we here at ProView Networks would like to thank Sadie's for their continued support in helping us bring you all of your New Mexico high school sports coverage.
Meet Greg Shamus. He's a State Farm agent, which means he's here to help with all this. But it's easier to just remember he's here to help life go right. Call State Farm agent Greg Shamus at 505-898-3648 today.
At New Mexico Highlands University, you're more than a student, you're family. Whether you're taking courses in Las Vegas, Santa Fe, Rio Rancho, Albuquerque, or Farmington, you'll get that one-on-one attention to inspire you to reach your goals. Let New Mexico Highlands help take your passion and accelerate it into a career and fulfilling life path. Find out why New Mexico Highlands is the right choice for you. Log on to NewMexicoHighlands.com today.
TurboThreads is a proud sponsor of ProView Networks.
Almost 30 years of experience means fast service, great prices, and a wide selection of apparel from t-shirts to performance sport shirts, even jackets and hats. They feature low minimums and no setup charges on most orders. Turbo Threads is located at 1503 Golf Course Road in Rio Rancho, or find them on Facebook, online at turbothreads.com, or call 999-1234 for Turbo Threads.
Plan your adventure at WNMU.edu.
Extreme Clean is a proud sponsor and supporter of ProView Networks and all high school sports athletics. Owner Mike McLean and Extreme Clean specialize in carpet cleaning for apartment, realty, business, and residential clients. With over 20 years experience, attention to detail and quality customer service matters. For more information, give them a call, 505-221-6440, Extreme Clean.
For your surprisingly great rates, contact your local State Farm agent today.
If you want the real deal, call State Farm agent Ashley Duran in Albuquerque today.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
And you're up.
Well, that two-time guy back tomorrow. JJ Buck, Ned James, Mike Fattel, Aaron on the ProView side. So Friday morning, we talked with Gwen Malley, the senior forward for the University of New Mexico women's soccer team. And what'd she do? She scored 2 goals Friday night on senior night. Added 1 more yesterday against Colorado State. So she has 9 goals on the season. A little OD karma maybe. But had to book in the weekend because the team that won the Mountain Division, UNM Women's Soccer, clinched home field advantage for the Mountain West Championship game. I don't know what the Mountain West is doing with this divisional crossover nonsense that they're trying to represent it as, but it's a championship game. A bid to the NCAA tournament is on the line, and your Lobos get to host that game against San Diego State as UNM finishes the season 9-1. Once again, a home sweep of their opponents this weekend, Wyoming and Colorado State. And joining us now is the head coach at the University of New Mexico for the women's soccer team, Heather Dyke. Heather, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning, JJ. Ned, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Thank you guys very much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Oh, of course. We had to bookend the weekend because we knew, all right, you guys were in the title game, but you finally clinched home field. But first, let's go to the weekend and what we saw out of your team. Tested a little bit, especially Friday night, and then yesterday in the first half, with some player rotations. How do you feel your team responded with what was on the line, and then what they will take out of this weekend and be able to take to practice this week?
Yeah, I mean, I think this team has figured out ways to respond in every way. I mean, it's always easy to be up and excited for a Friday night game because you're fresh and you're rested, and the lights are on, and especially when you play at home, it's just, there's kind of a magical feel when we get to play on that field. And then every Sunday, I think it was 78 degrees during the game yesterday, and it impacts you. You're still tired from Friday, and physically it's just a demanding game. So I think the level of soccer is always different, but we've known that. We've known that for the 7 years I've been here now, and you have to respond. You have to find a way to play with grit. And this team has done that week in and week out, and I couldn't be more proud of them.
Heather, this team is talented, but you look at your roster this season, if anyone has seen you on the sidelines, there's a lot of players, and it's just due to the way the rosters were constructed this season. So it goes back to last year. The team chemistry, the culture, it resonates. You hear it from the players, especially with that many talented players, trying to keep them all happy on the same page. What were you able to do last year when you couldn't be together but still build that team chemistry?
Yeah, I mean, part of a big word for us this whole time has just been gratitude. I mean, we get to play soccer. We're not on the front lines. We're not somebody who's been at risk during all this, and we don't take that lightly. So anytime that we get to do that again, shame on us if we didn't learn from having it taken away. And so I think you see that in our team. I think we all embrace whatever role it is that we have. Of course, everybody wants to play. I mean, that's the nature of the sport. But because of COVID, the roster's gotten big, and we've talked a lot about playing a role, and whatever role that is, that you're an all-star at it. So I think our culture is something that makes our team special, and I think people feel it when they're, in our environment.
Heather, I think you guys have done a tremendous job this season. I mean, being 9-1, it kind of exemplifies what you've done with that program and what the ladies have put on the line to be successful. How do you see this week's practices going as you prepare for this game this weekend? How do you see them and their enthusiasm, and how do you keep some of the excitement reeled in so they can kind of focus on the task at hand to get this win?
Yeah, that's a great question. In a normal year, I think that would be my focus. I think one of the things that I've learned is trying to reel in excitement is a mistake. Like, this is so cool. What a great opportunity for our city, and what a great opportunity for these players, and they've earned every single bit of it. So I'm going to let them enjoy every second of it. I'm going to try and amplify just how cool it is for them, and try to show the community what an amazing group of women they are. Like, I enjoy being with them every day. So lucky me and lucky our staff that we get to be around these kind of kids.
Talking with University of New Mexico women's soccer head coach Heather Dyke. UNM hosting, it's a championship game. I'm going to call it a championship game despite what the Mountain West wants to say about a cross-divisional nonsense. It's a Mountain West title game on Saturday, 7:30 at the UNM Soccer Complex against San Diego State. And Heather, of course, when the scoreboard lights up, people take notice of that. And it's goals, it's what your team has done. But defensively, you have been phenomenal this season. What's been the key to that aspect for your team?
I mean, most certainly Malia and Emily in goal. Like, those two are, the amount of minutes that they both have is pretty exceptional. Malia kind of went through a little bit of an injury this year and didn't play as much as she normally would, but those two have been exceptional. Leadership, just like you feel their presence on the field, and I think you need that from a goalkeeper. And then I think Carly and Maya, like at the end of the year last year, we went to a back four, and those two started to play together. But as the year's gone on, like, they've just formed this pretty cool partnership, and one's strength is the other's weaknesses, and vice versa. And I think those guys and just our defense in general. And the other big one for me that I don't think it's a ton of credit is Alexa Curtin, and she's a fifth-year senior next year who's just, like, she doesn't make mistakes. She just does her job over and over and over again. And when you have players like that, like, nothing comes as a surprise. We're ready for whatever's going to come our way.
Heather, when you look at this roster, too, it's a mix of all kinds of players. You get the local talent, and then, of course, you are able to recruit across the country. Was Gwen Malley one of your first recruits?
No, actually, you know what? Gwen was committed here when I was hired. So
okay.
She's a commit of Kit and Jorge, who were here prior to me, who had built a pretty incredible program. And then when I signed, Gwen had just signed. So we had a long talk about what she wanted to do here, and thank God that she still ended up coming, because she's been just a pillar of our team for a very long time.
Yeah, and of course her story, tearing her ACL last spring, wouldn't have played if there would have been a fall season, because she's wants to go to medical school, and that's what you've seen, and you're still dealing with student athletes. So when you have players in the program as long as she's been there, what does that do for the other players? Is she almost like an extension of your identity at this point in time?
Yeah, I mean, I think you talk about all these different factors that play into players being successful, and I think one of them is the ability to let go of all the things that you think are important, because they're not. Like, it's just go out and play, and go out and have a good time, and go out and put the effort in. And I think for Gwen, when she really thought that she wasn't going to be able to do this anymore, I mean, that kid's first phone call to me was, I still want to be here, and I still want to make this team great. Like, she's that kind of person. So the fact that she gets to play now and she's done so well, I think it's a product of that. Like, she's just playing. There's no stress on her. She's just enjoying it. You see it in her face. You see it in her body language. And I think that influence on our team alone has been pretty unbelievable, because people can, feed off of that. But Gwen she's just an exceptional young woman. And I'm sure you guys got a little bit of a taste of that on Friday. But on field, off the field, leadership, character, like, she's just A+ in all of it. So she's been somebody that we're really sad to see leave, but we know she's going to go kill it in medical school. Heather,
Your assistants, tell me a little bit about how important they have been to this season and their contribution, and all the other helpers that you get in soccer. I know I haven't been over there as much, but I just know how open you have been. I'm thankful for that with your staff, and I used to go in there and bug them and try to get them to teach me a little bit more about soccer, and I haven't been able to do that because of the pandemic. I used to walk through there quite a bit, and they'd give me little tips. And just tell us a little bit about how important they've been in the success of this team, particularly this year with everything that's gone on.
Yeah, we miss you coming through, Ned. As soon as we get this sorted, you have to come back again.
Oh yeah, definitely.
There's a couple things to me that are really important, and one of them certainly is trying to promote and keeping the Mexicans here on the field as players. We've done a really good job of that, and truthfully, those New Mexicans have led our program in so many ways. But our staff is on the Mexican as well, so it's something that I take great pride in, because I think there's really talented, hardworking, capable people here, and so that's one of the big things to me, is that they're all born and raised in New Mexico. But those guys do all the hard work. I mean, I get to do the fun stuff. I get to coach the team. I get to do stuff like this and be on radio shows. And Paul Maestas, who was a local high school coach here, Michaela Supple, who actually coached as a youth player and has come back now as a coach. We have a student manager, Nat Worster, who volunteers his time. Our athletic trainer is Marco Corda, who's literally a full member of our staff and like the greatest guy ever. And then my sister-in-law, Taryn Dyke, gets to coach with us too, and she's alumni from the university. So it's a special group of people, and at the heart of all of it, the question we always ask is, what can we do more for our players and make it a better environment? And those guys do that every day.
Talking with UNM women's soccer coach Heather Dyke. And Heather, this year it presents a unique opportunity, and that is, with the division play, it's straight to a title game for the division winners, and you guys get to host it on Saturday night at home with fans. And just the accomplishment itself is fantastic, but I know the thought of not even playing probably crossed your mind plenty of times late in the fall going into the spring. So what does it feel like to be here playing a championship game with fans in the stands this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I think magic is probably the word. I mean, it's just, again, when it's taken away from you, you really realize how lucky you are to have it. And I think our team knows that. I certainly do. I mean, it's just the coolest thing ever to be able to play in New Mexico in front of those fans. And the crazy part of all of it is that we still go into this game an underdog. Like with the season that we've had and the field that we have, we'll still be an underdog. San Diego State's been kind of the big dog in our conference for the past 10 years. So it's going to be an incredible game, and I think you're going to see two very talented teams go at it, and I can't wait to be a part of it. So I'm hopeful everybody can get out there and come pack the stadium and make our home field advantage even more special.
Well, it definitely is going to be an awesome night. Heather, thank you so much for the time. I definitely wanted to catch up and let people know what's on deck, get them ready for Saturday night, and I will be talking more later this week. But once again, congratulations. I know the work isn't done, but best of luck to you and the team, and we'll talk soon.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you both very much. Appreciate it.
That is Heather. UNM women's soccer team, it is a championship game. I don't know what this nonsense is, the Mountain West. They're calling it a cross-divisional matchup. But then they say, oh, by the way, we're going to give you a championship hat. We're giving you a championship shirt. I call that a championship game. It's a Mountain West championship game, Saturday night here in Albuquerque. Lobos, Aztecs, 7:30, UNM Soccer Complex. It's going to be awesome. This team is fun. It's going to be a great challenge against San Diego State. Show up, support the Lobos in this contest. We'll continue with plenty from the weekend. Masters, no-hitter, you name it, we got you covered. It's the opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, the Sports Animal.
There's people by helping them connect with God, grow in relationships, and live generously.
crisp, and they look good. Here's Wade in transition.
Hey!
Gonna flush it home.
Well, for a 2021 Bowl Series here at University Stadium. Short kickoff. Fielded about the 20.
Oh,
Gonzalez got
a
big gap up the middle,
Big
one man
gap.
to beat. Let's see, beats Contreras.
He's got it.
Gonzalez will return it 80 yards for a touchdown. And it was just a matter of time before he found a crease.
It's a privilege, you know, it's not a right. And I think these kids have found that out.
Wait, on the quarterback
He's
option.
gonna have it.
We'll break it
That's
up the middle for a touchdown.
Good job.
36-yard touchdown run by Juan Fuentes. Following.
Oliveras fakes the drive inside, trying to turn it around, draws contact, puts it up, count it, and what opportunity upcoming for Oliveras.
See how they're
Makes back to pass, getting some pressure.
oh wide
Complete
open.
to Greathouse. Greathouse might go 50, 45, 40, 30. One man to beats. Fine, no. Breaks out of that tackle. Tight ropes the sideline. Touchdown. Touchdown for Peyton Greathouse.
No.
On a turnover again, Hobnet, they've got numbers. Canton. Oh, and the throwdown. Cut off. Ortiz going to take the deep three. Ortiz nails the three-point shot. Time out. Volcano Vista Cougars take a 49-47 lead. 3.3 seconds left.
Just like that. You're at the 1 yard line.
Looking over the middle. Intercepted. It's intercepted. And going down the left sideline, might take it to a house call. One man to beat, cuts it back inside at the 5. 10, one man to beat again. Cuts it back at the 5, touchdown. Interception in the return
Who was that?
by number 8, Isaac Kinson, who's already scored an offensive touchdown.
Game, 4.9 seconds to go in the first quarter. Bring up the court, Mays going inside, drawing contact, and one opportunity.
An attack. Oh, that's a great inbound play. Mata puts it up, blocked beautifully by Heckrop. Blocked beautifully. Shot at the buzzer's up, and it's good. It's good by number 5, Devin Domino Lovato for 3. That will count.
Don't sacrifice quality and flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
Local talk today at 4, 95.9 FM and AM 610. The Sports
And you're
Animal.
up. So with all the focus being on quarterbacks, 1, 2, 3, what's going to happen at 4? I do think there is a fascinating dynamic at 9 and 10 when it comes to the Denver Broncos and Dallas Cowboys. Of course, 2 different positions. One is set with their quote-unquote franchise quarterback. The other probably still not sold on Drew Lock, but what is the better option at this point in time? JJ Buck, Ned James, got Mike Vattel taking your phone calls. 2460610 is Aquan's Auto Care hotline. You can hit me up via the email jj@sportsanimalabq.com. I know a lot of you are sending them to Jeff this morning. Well, he's going to read them tomorrow because he's not here today, obviously. So he'll get to those tomorrow. And you can find me on Twitter as well, _JJ Buck. Of course, AA Ron holding it down on the ProView side. So I think those are teams that could be looking at similar players, whether it's Patrick Surtain, the cornerback out of Alabama, potentially adding to the offensive line. Because 9 is going to be an interesting position, specifically what happens in front with Atlanta at 4, does someone fall in love with Justin Fields and then the Falcons cash in, able to trade back, get some more draft assets? And then how does everyone feel about Trey Lance? Trey Lance has one more pro day upcoming, which, by the way, so does Ohio State. They have a second pro day because programs like Alabama and Ohio State have 2 pro days for the athletes on their campus, which John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan are going to be at Justin Fields' pro day and Trey Lance's pro day. So add that into the mix of we are not 100% sure what's going to happen at 3. But, of course, 9-10 can be interesting because Dallas is set. They paid Dak Prescott. Everyone assumes it's got to be offensive line or defense. But then the story last week, guess who Jerry Jones likes? The flashy things. Kyle Pitts, the tight end out of Florida. And immediately your reaction is, no, that's impossible. He's crazy to do that. But, the one thing that they've done well is actually draft offensive talent. So they've gotten that right, at least in the draft, even though that is definitely not a moment of need. But, of course, in this area, and overall 9-10 is really interesting because if they're going defense, then both these teams could be potentially going after the same guy in that spot.
Yeah, the interesting thing with the draft, because your board is stacked already. Everybody knows who's the best player at every position, who they think is the best player at every position, and they know who are the best players as they rank totally. Yeah. And so it'll be interesting. At 9 and 10, do you take the best player or do you take a player of need at a position that you think you need? And that's where you get into the whole tricky thing with, hey, are they going with the best player at that spot? Or are they picking, people get upset. Why are we picking that guy? Why, they're gonna absolutely say that was the best player at that particular number. But a lot of times it's based on a need, based on like some of the things you think, contracts. But most owners are not like Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones, probably other than the social justice stuff with him, I really like Jerry Jones as an owner.
You're one of the few people that
I know, and hear me out on this. The reason why I like, there's something to be said for a guy who's actually put on some shoulder pads, a helmet, has hit that stranger on the other side of the line of scrimmage, and have played the game. He's one of the few owners that has played the game. He played it at a high level. Played it in college. So to me, that weighs a lot. That's why I see him in that fraternity.
Football guy.
Yeah, he's a football guy. Plus, hey, it's my money. I bought the team. I'm a football guy. I can learn. I understand how football works. Okay, Jimmy Johnson. Yeah, okay, you're the coach, but hey, I hired you. You work for me. So I want my own radio show. I deserve the credit as well. So and I like that about him. I really do. I really think it's great. But if he wants a tight end and he can afford it, he can afford to move up. It's his team. He's the GM coach. A lot of times what people don't realize with drafting is who's making the pick. Who makes the pick and where that pick affects that person. Is it the coach? Hey, I need to save my job. Hey, we better draft Pac-Man Jones or else we're going to all be fired. This is a quote from when I was in Tennessee, because we don't have a DB or a punt returner. Or is it the GM? Hey, I've got to hire this. I got to draft this quarterback because I'm taking care of the organization moving forward. And this player is going to be someone we're going to need to develop.
Tommy,
and he's
Cowboys.
going to be with us 4 years, down the road. So it's always, who's picking and how it affects that particular need or that particular person within the organization that determines who gets selected, particularly at a position of 9 and 10.
Yeah, so going back, I think the biggest story with Dallas and Jerry Jones of recent history was the reports that he liked Johnny Manziel, and I guess he was pushed out of that, and that's when he drafted the offensive lineman.
Yeah.
At that time, I'm blanking on the name, but when they got him in that draft, it was Zach Martin.
Yeah, Zach Martin.
The Zach Martin draft.
Yeah.
And so the one thing, and that's what you're getting at, which to me always fascinates about the top 10. Are you drafting via need, or is it a position where you got to take the best available talent? And at 10, Kyle Pitts might be the best available player. Like, it might not be the thing you need, because you look at this team,
right.
The way that they lost last year, even with Dak Prescott, is because they couldn't stop anybody, but best available player versus need. And that's why I think it's fascinating at 9 and 10, because there's been a lot. If you look at the mock drafts, the lead up to it, Patrick Surtain, the number one cornerback on the board. Sometimes he's gone 9 to Denver, 10 to Dallas in that situation where with the quarterbacks being pushed up the board, it's going to drop down some good players. Like I think offensive lineman is absolutely still in play at 10 to get the second offensive lineman off the board, depending what happens with Penny Sewell, the tackle out of Oregon. The top pass rusher. Now, there's not a guy we're talking about at pass rusher right now, but whoever is number one could be there at 9, 10, the turn, when usually that guy's going in the top 5. So that's what is really intriguing about the back end of the top 10 is the non-quarterbacks. You're looking at the top player available on the board at multiple positions outside of the quarterback position, and to see how that plays out. 246-0610 is Equan's Auto Care Hotline. Tommy, what is up, Tommy? How you doing?
Good, guys. Tom the Truth back at you. You know who I want, Patrick Surtain the second. We need defense. Even though Pitts might be there, he's a great tight end. He's going to be overall a huge improvement in what we have right now. But we don't need offense. And if they do get Pitts, then trade Gallup. Get some quality defensive back there. And I know Quinn's going to want some better people to run that defense. I don't think defense will be as bad as last year. I think that was an anomaly. I think Nolan just stunk, and he didn't have the personnel there to run his defense. He didn't have the people he wanted. I just think when you got a Patrick Surtain the second there to go with his buddy Diggs that they drafted last year from Alabama, the thing about Jerry Jones, he will go for the pretty little car. Then the car that just will get him to point A to point B in a satisfactory condition. That's what he does. He's drafted offense the last 5 years. Offensive linemen, yeah, we need those. You can get those late. You don't need to draft those high. You can get guys like that late. Look at where Larry Allen went back in the day. Now, I'm not even worried about O-line. Yeah, you can get that maybe next pick, second round. But if we're going to stop people from scoring, we got to have some quality. And yes, he spent money with linebacker and Tank. That's fine. But corners and safeties, and I've told you this before, since 2012, the Claiborne and Carr fiasco, he hasn't wanted to spend money. He doesn't believe in that, and that's the problem. And if you just want to sell tickets and offense, great, that's fine, and that's what Jerry's about. But if you want to win a ring, you got to stop people. They're going to score without Pitts. They would have scored without Lamb 30 points a game. I'm not worried about the Cowboys scoring. I'm worried about them stopping somebody. And it doesn't matter if you score 35 points a game if you give up 40. It doesn't matter, period.
Got you, Tommy. Appreciate a little bit of truth there on a Monday morning. And that's the thing, too, with the NFC East is even with their deficiencies, they should absolutely be the favorites in that division with Dak Prescott and the offense. I give the Washington football team a ton of credit what they did last year, Ron Rivera. That's a team that has a defense but no offense. So what should win out in that division? Is it going to be the defensive team that's just trying to get by at the quarterback position? Like, are you believing in Ryan Fitzpatrick for 16 games? You're not. You're going to get 3 really good games in Ryan Fitzpatrick, and then the reality of what he is at this point in his career. So I think that is a fascinating point, because I think I do believe that this team, even with the defensive deficiencies, is in a good position. But we will hold that thought. We got to take this break, continue to talk more as we move towards the NFL draft. What should teams do? Because I think once you get past 4, the Falcons are in a really good spot saying, hey, throw the best offer at me if you want Justin Fields. There is ridiculous talent available because of the way quarterbacks are being pushed up in this draft. When we think about getting ready for the NFL draft, you got to put that work in. Are you getting yourself ready? Because I know gym culture, right? We think of the memes, the ideas we all have in our head about what a gym is or what kind of gym we would fit into. Are you someone that just wants to pick things up, put them down? Are you going to the gym and you're like, I don't know if this is for me? Well, let me tell you, a gym, you can get all the things you want with an atmosphere and a manageable time frame, and that is F45. We're talking strength training, cardio work, full body workouts in one place. Yes, in only that 45-minute class. F45 Training is a gym that brings it all together with high-intensity group workouts that are fast, fun, and results-driven. Check them out at f45training.com. Download the F45 app to see the schedule of classes available, and you can sign up for your 7-day free trial. No strings attached. Just get into the gym and check it out. Of course, with the app, you can see the schedule of classes and then book your class because they're still managing class size, so you can focus on your workout in a good atmosphere. You're not going to be overwhelmed with hundreds of people at the gym. And with classes 7 days a week, you're going to be able to find one that works for you in a manageable time frame, so you can still get a good, fantastic workout in in just 45 minutes. We're talking functional movements, lifting, squatting, jumping, twisting, pulling, pushing, all the stuff that come together and qualify as functional fitness. And with a new class each day, you'll face a new challenge each time. So take over your fitness identity, F45. Check them out, f45training.com. Download the F45 app and create your own gym identity. Team training, life-changing. I'll see you at F45.
Here
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walking to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number one. Cover it with green stuff, one scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Networks.
Are you sure we're supposed to be doing this?
Don't worry, I've watched him do it 1,000 times. Come on, what's the worst that could happen?
No! Bad dog! Hi, welcome to Car Crafters. What happened? Don't worry, we'll make it like it never happened.
Car Crafters, it's like it never happened.
Car Crafters is a proud supporter of ProView Networks.
For your surprisingly great rates, contact your local State Farm agent today.
If you want the real deal, call State Farm agent Marty Size in Albuquerque today.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Rudy's is a proud supporter of ProView Networks.
A rogue virus, no jobs, sky-high tuition debt. Life is trying to put our generation on the sidelines. But we refuse to just sit back and watch it pass us by. Instead, watch us fly ahead. Watch us overcome anything. Watch us rise. Watch us change our world. Watch us become the next greatest generation.
Calling all football players, are you looking to develop your skills this season? It's never too late or too early to put in the work. Coach Carl Barrere and the Air Barrere program at 8 Grady's Performance Center provide comprehensive position training for aspiring football players at all levels. Whether you're looking to increase your speed, gain strength, or hone your skill, we train all positions with a team of experienced coaches who know what it takes to succeed at all levels from Yaffle to college. Check us out at 8gradys.com to learn more and sign up for training today.
Jackson Compaction wants to help you keep your green. And keep the community green as well. Jackson Compaction has worked hard to maintain the same prices since day one. Always easy and painless trash removal with professional crews and quality service. If it's non-hazardous waste, debris, or trash on your land, leave it to us. At Jackson Compaction, we're dedicated to ensuring the conservation of our environment. You trash it, we smash it. Jackson Compaction, we've earned a reputation for great results.
Hi, I'm Staff Sergeant Hayes. I'm with the New Mexico Army National Guard, and I'm from Tucson, Arizona.
Hi, I'm Staff Sergeant Greg Martinez. I'm with the New Mexico Army National Guard, and I'm from Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Hi, I'm Marilena Fernandez. I'm with the New Mexico Army National Guard, and I'm from Santa Fe, New Mexico.
The New Mexico Army National Guard is a proud
From
supporter of
the elder being honored on Thursday at the honorary tee shot to open the tournament to Hideki Matsuyama, the first ever male golfer from Japan to win a major championship, a weekend of firsts, and boy was it a lot of fun to watch. And we have a special guest for you, very exciting here on the opening drive, JJ Buck with Ned James this morning, and it's a good friend of ours, NBC Sports and Golf Channel analyst, a winner on the PGA Tour, Noda Begay, calling in this morning. Noda, good morning, how are you?
I'm doing great, JJ. Man, you're going to take my job spitting out all those great stats and information on the winner and the tournament. That's great.
Oh, it was great to see, and I always love in sports when we've seen these things for so long, something happen for the first time. But we saw Justin Rose jump out on Thursday. But what was special about Saturday, what Hideki Matsuyama was able to do to put himself in position on Sunday?
Well, I mean, a couple things. Was the only bogey round of the week up until Saturday. I believe John Rahm may have gone bogey-free yesterday. I have to double-check the score. But Matsuyama 65 on Saturday kind of just told the rest of the field just exactly how good he was playing. There's a statistic we use on the PGA Tour. It's called strokes gained approach, and it basically measures your iron play. It measures, if you're hitting from a certain yardage, it measures your ability to get it close to the hole as opposed to the person you're playing with from a similar yardage. So it's probably the most accurate assessment of a player's skill, with their irons. And Matsuyama was almost 2.5 strokes better. He was leading that statistic through Saturday at almost 2.5 strokes better than the rest of the field. And so when we're doing our show Sunday morning and just kind of make projections and try and, make an argument for one player or another, I use that sort of as my primary talking point, going like, this guy is hitting it better with his irons than any other player in the field. When Jordan Spieth won in 2015 and Danny Willett won in 2016, they led the field in that same category. So I'm like, there's a trend here. So I went to bat for Matsuyama during the show, and he was my guy that I thought was going to get it done, and he came through with flying colors.
With Augusta National, the thing that fascinates me is the course really doesn't change. Like, they're not going to throw a bunch of surprises at you. It's built a certain way. That's the setup. But yet, each and every year, we see the best players still struggle, whether it's the speed of the greens, not being able to hit your irons. Dustin Johnson just won it a few months ago, wasn't quite the same player. What is that experience like, at the Masters, where they're not necessarily surprising you, but yet it can be so challenging?
I think it's something that's very hard for the recreational golfer to comprehend, because when, I consider myself somewhat recreational because I don't play that much anymore. So I play, once every couple of weeks. But, you go out there, you play once, you're with your buddies, you see a course for the first time, you adjust as best you can. So you're not paying attention to how a course is changing from one day to the next. But, Augusta National can change its personality literally overnight. The venue per se doesn't change in terms of the overall design, but the way that they can control scoring with adding water, pulling water out. They actually have a system underneath the ground. It's called a sub-air system underneath the fairways and the greens. So if the greens get a little bit too much moisture, they can turn the sub-air system on, and it sucks the water out of those areas so they can play to a certain firmness. So I'll give you a perfect example. Back in the fall, Dustin Johnson set the all-time scoring record. He shot 20 under. He made 24 birdies and only 4 bogeys that week when he won the Masters in November. And I don't think the tournament committee at Augusta wanted to see a 20 under number win again. So the golf course was set up on Thursday extremely, extremely difficult. There were only 3 scores 60s. There were only 12 scores under par. And it played to a scoring average of 74.5, which is really, really high for the professional PGA Tour players. So we go from Thursday to Friday. There was no rain, but the committee decided to put some water on the greens and put a little bit of water in the fairways. The scoring average improved by over 2 shots, okay? And then there were 40 players as opposed to 12 on day 1. There were 40 players on day 2 that broke par. So it just tells you how much it can change. It changed a little bit on Saturday, and Matsuyama was the only one that could adjust with that awesome 65.
No, Ned James here. That's awesome. The description of how they can manipulate the course. In no other sport have I ever heard where the actual groundspeople can, suck water or put water in. Tell me how much of an effect that actually had this weekend in particular. Did you see anything from Saturday to Sunday that changed in the course that benefited Matsuyama Hideki over the other players?
You know what I think happened on Sunday is I think it played very fair. I think it was maybe a little borderline unfair on Thursday. It got a little too easy on Friday. The rain kind of was a good break for the leaders because the wind died down, the greens got softer, and you saw the scores. Matsuyama, after the rain delay, went out, I think, and he made like 6 birdies on the back 9. So it did favor the players in the later group. But I think Sunday, with no weather, just some pretty substantial winds, played very fair, but it played hard, which I think is what really helped Matsuyama. When you're one of the best ball strikers, it means you're hitting it solid. When you hit it solid, the wind doesn't affect it as much. And for those of us that play out here in the New Mexico winds, that ball, once it gets in the air, can kind of take on its own personality. If, you don't hit it right, it can, go 30 or 40 yards left off your target. So it was going to be hard for someone to close the gap because it's really hard to shoot low scores when the golf course is playing tough. And you saw John Rahm go out there and he shot a wonderful 66 to close out his round, moved up into the top 10. He was at even par, tied for 21st, headed into Sunday's round, and really moved past a lot of players. And you just didn't really see anybody else, put up that good of a score. Schauffele couldn't do it. Spieth couldn't do it. Leishman couldn't do it. And so what it allowed Matsuyama to do is sort of maintain his lead, have a big cushion coming down the stretch where he was able to bogey the last hole and still win by a shot.
We're joined by Nota Begay with us here on the opening drive. And Nota, you bring up Xander Schauffele, who ended up 7 under, tied with Jordan Spieth, but it's because he went for it on 16. He realized the situation he was in. He tried to play really aggressive on that hole. But overall for Xander Schauffele, already what we've seen out of him early in his career, the way he has played in majors, it feels like it's only a matter of time before the X-Man is putting on a green jacket or donning a major trophy.
Yeah, Schauffele really has an ability to put himself in contention in big events, and I believe wholeheartedly, like you do, that he will get one. He just has to play better. I mean, he got off, and it's easy to say, and I'm Monday morning quarterback here, literally. But you can't get off to a slow start. He was in the best position of the players tied for second because he was playing with the leader, so he could keep an eye on what Matsuyama was doing. And just after that nice start he got off to, he was 1 under through 2 holes, just wasn't ever able to do anything to cut into that lead and put some direct pressure on Matsuyama. He made a very sloppy bogey at the 3rd. He made another bogey at the 4th. And Matsuyama was able to play the first 4 holes in even par, and that was my key. The first 4 holes at Augusta are key. And so in our show yesterday morning, I said, look, if Matsuyama's standing on the 5th tee even par for the day, which he was, he's going to win the Masters. I just got lucky on that one, guys, but it just comes down to you got to put pressure on the leader. If you don't put pressure on the leader, you allow them to be able to sort of have some breathing room and make a few extra mistakes, which is what the chase pack allowed Matsuyama to do yesterday.
One of the things that JJ and I talked about earlier that I've noticed with the sport of golf, and you can help me out with this, it just seems on Sunday when the guy is in the lead, the pressure seems to mount more on the guys that are chasing more so than the leader. It just seemed like Matsuyama had this, and maybe in other circumstances you can point out where the chase pack caught the guy who was in the lead on Sunday and overtook him. But it just seems to me with golf, when that guy is leading, and particularly with these majors, on that last day, it's really particularly hard to catch them. Why do you think that is, and if that is so, or if not, kind of school me up on golf as far as it goes when the guy is in the lead on Sunday in these majors, and how, as a professional yourself, you look at it from being chased by the guys from behind.
Yeah, where I think, like, if you watch an NBA game and you see a team that a good three-point shooting team, let's just call it. Not that they shoot anything else in the NBA anymore. It's just a series of three-pointers. But you go into the fourth quarter and they're down by 12, 13 points. You're not really worried, because at any point in that fourth quarter and that those closing 12 minutes, a run could come where they could reel off 3 consecutive three-pointers, go on a 9-0 run, and cut that lead down to 3 or 4 points. And in golf, it's much harder. The size of your lead matters. Where in an NBA game, the size of the lead doesn't necessarily matter going into that fourth quarter. In golf, it does matter. So Matsuyama had a 4-shot lead. He's got better than a 50% chance of winning. If that lead goes to 3 shots heading into the final round, the percentage of him winning moves below 50%, and it goes down and down. So at 2 shots, it goes down to less than 25%, and then a 1-shot lead, you're literally right around 10% of winning, a 1 in 10 chance. So what that does to your question, Ned, is that a big lead allows the leader to make some mistakes. You can get away with a 3-putt. You can get away with an early bogey. I mean, Matsuyama went out and he bogeyed the first hole.
Yeah.
But he still had a 3-shot lead. The only player that put any pressure on Matsuyama throughout the day was Will Zalatoris. And I tell you what, that kid played some golf. Was playing college golf, less than 2 years ago, and now was on the world's biggest stage, making a run at being the first-time starter to win the Masters since 1979, which was Fuzzy Zoeller. So all in all, having a big lead allows the leader to make mistakes, which is, I think, why it's hard for the people that are trying to close in on that. It's hard for them to overcome.
All right, Noda, lastly, before I let you go, what does this mean this year for Hideki Matsuyama? Of course, major champion, down in the green jacket, but there's even talk about the Olympics and what it would mean for him to lead out even that committee of players in Japan, just the impact that that's going to have on the sport.
Well, it's going to have a broad-based impact, and if you give me a second here, I'll sort of elaborate on that. So I think it was around 2008, the Masters started a tournament called the Asia Pacific Amateur Championship. Hideki Matsuyama won the Asia Pacific Amateur Championship in 2010, so just over 10 years ago. And with that victory, it allowed him to participate in the Masters as an amateur. When he came to Augusta to compete, he became the low amateur. He was a low amateur at the Masters. And why that matters is the investment in the footprint of golf makes a difference. And I don't know if you guys are aware, but I just started a local junior golf tour here in New Mexico called the Nota Begay III Junior Golf Tour. And for parents or kids that are out there listening right now that are thinking about getting their kids involved in something that is positive, that is built on, all the great fundamentals of the game of golf, come visit us at nb3jgt.com because we're providing high-quality 36-hole events for kids in our area that are affordable, that have a pathway for them to qualify for our regional tournaments, which then will give them a chance to qualify for our national championship, which is broadcast on the Golf Channel. It's the only tournament in the country that's on national television. And so just kind of looking at how that investment at a grassroots level makes a difference. So Augusta did that in the Asia Pacific region. They also did it in South America. There's also an event called the South American Amateur Championship. They started the Augusta National Women's Amateur Championship 2 years ago, and they started drive, chip, and putt. So they are leading the world in terms of growing the game and providing access to the Masters, which is the premier golf event in our sport. So seeing Matsuyama put the green jacket on as the first male Japanese player to win a major championship from the country of Japan, with the Olympics coming up, with all the issues that Asians have been dealing with in terms of discrimination and prejudice and that we're reading about on our news feeds, every day, there couldn't be a brighter light for that community moving forward. And I really hope they allow him, wearing his green jacket, to carry the flag for the country of Japan in the opening ceremony this summer when the Olympics start. That would really be something that would sort of bring a tear to my eye.
Well, Noto, we appreciate you calling in, sharing your thoughts. Always great to catch up with you, and we'll definitely talk more about that Juneau Golf Tour coming up. But thank you for sharing some Masters thoughts with us this morning.
Thanks for having me, guys. Take care.
Yeah,
appreciate it. That was
Noto.
Noto Begay. We blew up the clock. It was worth it. We're back after this.
Everything is starting to turn green. Let's put
Mexico High School Athletics.
For your surprisingly great rates, contact your local State Farm agent today.
If you want the real deal, call State Farm agent Art Sandoval in Albuquerque today.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Next in line.
Rudy's is a proud supporter of ProView Networks.
Sadie's is a proud supporter of New Mexico high school sports and athletics, and we here at ProView Networks would like to thank Sadie's for their continued support in helping us bring you all of your New Mexico high school sports coverage.
Meet Greg Shamus. He's a State Farm agent, which means he's here to help with all this. But it's easier to just remember he's here to help life go right. Call State Farm agent Greg Shamus at 505-898-3648 today.
At New Mexico Highlands University, you're more than a student, you're family. Whether you're taking courses in Las Vegas, Santa Fe, Rio Rancho, Albuquerque, or Farmington, you'll get that one-on-one attention to inspire you to reach your goals. Let New Mexico Highlands help take your passion and accelerate it into a career and fulfilling life path. Find out why New Mexico Highlands is the right choice for you. Log on to NewMexicoHighlands.com today.
TurboThreads is a proud sponsor of ProView Networks.
Almost 30 years of experience means fast service, great prices, and a wide selection of apparel from t-shirts to performance sports shirts, even jackets and hats. They feature low minimums and no setup charges on most orders. TurboThreads is located at 1503 Golf Course Road in Rio Rancho, or find them on Facebook, online at turbothreads.com, or call 999-1234 for TurboThreads.
And you're up. Well, that was cool. Unexpected call-in at Noto Begay right there. Winner on the PGA Tour, analyst on NBC Sports and the Golf Channel, dropping some knowledge on the Masters and Hideki Matsuyama and just everything that this weekend meant. And the Masters, for a tournament that might have been stuck in the wrong times for quite too long, to see what they're doing for the game overall. Matsuyama being the little amateur, we talked about where they're opening tournaments, got the women's tournaments going on. That is definitely an impactful sports story, and I thought what he said was fantastic there at the end, because I've been talking about the Olympics a little bit, but that would be an amazing moment for Hideki Matsuyama to not only be carrying the flag for Japan in the Summer Olympics, but even be wearing that green jacket walking out there.
Yes, I think it's an exceptional time and place for that to be done. He is the perfect ambassador. The fact that the Masters brought that up during the tournament, that they had been working with these Asian nations to bring the sport globally, and then the fact that he's able to win, which is one of the most prestigious events in our country, and be able to showcase that to the rest of the world is really, really fitting and really, really bright for our future with those nations and their participation in the sport of kings, they call it, golf. So it should be great. I think Hideki will be a great ambassador. He's humble. I think his acceptance speech, I think a lot of people were expecting him to say something profound, but he was just gracious and grateful to have won.
It's the moment. You know how overwhelming that's got to be?
Yeah.
Just to make that move. And it was interesting, too, hearing Hideki Matsuyama in his conversation after the fact. He said that, going to your point, Ned, there was a little bit less pressure because it wasn't as crazy. Yes, there were fans in attendance. There was media coverage more so than there was last time, but there still wasn't to the level it's been in the past. And so that's definitely noticeable by the guys on tour. And I thought what Noda said, the difference in golf is you give yourself a sizable lead on Sunday, you can make a mistake and survive.
Yeah, and it was evident there. It just seemed like the pressure was on the guys behind him. I saw his face when Xander Schauffele, my favorite player, the one golfer that I was really kind of pulling for because he was an American. I was hoping that he would kind of make it tough for him in the later holes, but on 16 when he was triple bogeying, I could see Hideki, just his face just lit up as he was gaining more and more of a lead from him as a result of him knocking the ball into the drink a couple times. So.
Yeah, so really good stuff from Noda Begay. Big thank you for calling in, a special guest this morning. We'll talk with him more, too, moving on in the future about MB3JGT.com, the junior golf tour that is starting for athletes here in New Mexico. Also, a big thank you to Jeff Grammer hanging out, talking some basketball with us. And, of course, Ned James, always great to catch up with you, my man. We still have to do lunch. Don't forget.
Yes, we do.
Heather,
thank Heather, too. Heather I miss you guys. I miss walking through the soccer offices and getting coached up on soccer, too. I watched Champions League this week.
Yes, we got you.
20.
Big thank you to Mike Vitale. Love you, too. Man, miss you, seeing you every day. Thank you for hanging out with us this morning. Ron, appreciate your work at ProView, by the way. You're probably going to have to buy us lunch for what happened in the Masters tournament. Jeff Siembieda is back tomorrow. We got Jim Rome Show, Colin Cowherd, Sports Bar coming up at 4 o'clock. Everybody be safe. Meta World Peace and Love. We'll talk tomorrow.
Good job.